This is Neil Schneider for MTS-TV at GDC 2014. To my immediate right is Ed McNeill from E McNeill LLC. Congratulations on launching your new company. Welcome to the program, Ed.
Thanks very much.
Now, I understand, actually congratulations, I should say, on being a first place winner in Oculus's VR Jam. Tell us about your game.
So the winner of the VR Jam was a game called CS, and that was like a cyberpunk hacking game, built in 3 weeks, as is, follows the requirements of the Jam. And since then, I sort of had the motivation and like the external validation I needed to turn that into a full title. And so I've renamed it to Darknet, and I've given it sort of a new look, new mechanics, and building it out to something that can really stand on its own as a launch title for the Oculus Rift.
Now, I've tried the game out. Very impressive. Can you elaborate a little bit about what the game is about, how you go about playing it?
Sure. The game is an abstract strategy game with sort of the theming based around data, security, hacking through computers, that sort of thing. So you're presented with like a complex network of nodes that represent servers, and they're all sort of interacting in different ways. And then you can zoom inside of any of them, and you're presented with sort of a puzzle. And if you solve that, you earn money, which you can use to upgrade your abilities, hack even more difficult servers, etc., and sort of work your way up until you've conquered the whole system.
Part of the appeal of the game was, and I hope I come across right when I say this, is the concept of hacking is a little cliche, like you're presented this node and you're going from node to node and you have to play with viruses and logic bombs and all kinds of stuff. And that's part of the charm, that you took the monotonous concept of hacking, and I say monotonous because it's probably not as glamorous as it is when you're actually doing it, but into something graphical and user-friendly and fun. What is it about the game that you thought was particularly fitting for virtual reality versus doing it in, let's say, traditional 2D or even stereoscopic 3D?
In this case, I think I have this association in my head, a very strong association between futuristic hacking and virtual reality. And so, like, when I put the Oculus Rift on for any game, I felt like a hacker. So it seemed very natural to me to try to combine those and actually make a hacking game for VR. There's a lot of things that VR does really well, like sense of scale and feeling of being surrounded. And because hacking it could be anything, Hollywood has sort of had its way with the theme. I can play with those strengths of VR with a lot of flexibility. I can sort of put anything in there that I want, and so I can try to make the stuff that's especially impressive given a new medium.
Now, the game plays for 5 minutes. I mean, it goes through this tutorial of you're breaking through a node and you've hacked with the logic bomb and the whole thing. Where do you want to ultimately go with this game? Right,
so what you've seen is like a 5-minute, what I'm calling a flavor demo. And so it's just meant to sort of give you like a glimpse of the game and a sense of how everything works. Beyond that, I'm trying to make it into something that's truly deep. It's like got a lot of strategic depth that could support you playing for hours upon hours. Not at one time, of course, but something that you can really go back to and expect a new, fresh challenge every time. So right now, what I'm focusing on is adding variety and strengthening the core mechanics so that they can really last.
Now, one of the things that struck me about this game is, to date, when I play VR games with the Rift and other solutions, there's usually a lot of complexity. And when I'm talking about complexity, I mean like first-person shooters or third-person. I mean, these are the demos that we're seeing on the show floor. Mm-hmm. Your game is relatively, and simple is a strong word. And when I mean by simple, I mean that it's not graphically super elaborate, but the concept is intriguing. Do you think it's a misnomer that VR games have to be super complex to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's wrong to say that any game has to be complex to be successful. And I think if you look at the games I've made in the past, they tend to be very simple and minimalistic, and that's partially by design. I think that obviously there's a lot that you can't do with minimalism, but it also adds a lot of clarity to the game mechanics. And I think, it's its own aesthetic. It's kind of a look that I tend to appreciate quite a lot.
Now, I'm curious to know, what was your inspiration for this game?
Probably Neuromancer most of all, but I'm not really sure exactly where I got this idea of, hacking through this like wireframe world of data. I know that's very common, but a lot of the movies that everyone references when they see the game were not movies that I saw until after I had started making it. I actually went on like a sort of VR hacking movie marathon to try to make sure that I was up to date on everything and sort of do my research to make sure I knew what everyone else's cultural touchstones were.
Now, you're obviously getting involved in this early. I mean, obviously, you had this tremendous success with the Oculus Rift and the developers kit. They're out with a new developers kit, and we're seeing lots of other solutions in the market. What are your plans? I mean, do you see a future where this game will be on multiple platforms?
I think it's a possibility at this point. I haven't sort of nailed down my plans, and I've, of course, only been working with the Rift since that's the developer kit I have. But I'm curious to see how everything else turns out. Last night at the VR Mixer, I was able to try out GameFace Labs' solution for the first time, which is nice because, of course, it's entirely mobile. And my game is simple enough, graphically, that it could probably run on a standalone Android device. And that one, I was really impressed with the visual quality. I would have preferred, a lighter headset and things like that, but of course it's a prototype. So, and there's a lot of other solutions that I haven't gotten a chance to try, and I'm just really curious to see how they'll turn out.
Are you excited that the industry is growing the way it is?
Of course, yeah. I mean, day zero of VR was probably, when the Oculus got all that attention, and now we're actually sort of charging through history. I feel like it's going to happen. Now that Sony's involved especially, I feel like it's starting to garner a lot of respect that it wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
One thing that struck me about your game is that, and we talked about the simplicity of it, and that's a strong word because it's not simple at all. You could tell a lot of work went into this game. Do you think it's got potential in augmented reality as well? And what I mean by that is seeing the real world with a graphical overlay that you're working with, because we're starting to see solutions like that. Do you think there's some promise, not necessarily with this game, but maybe a future development?
I mean, I definitely think there's a lot of promise with augmented reality. Like, no question, there's a lot to be done there. Yeah, I think with this game, just because I haven't sort of conceived of it along those lines from the beginning, it's really hard for me to imagine what that would look like. But I'm certain that there's going to be some great AR games or other applications, hopefully in the near future.
Well, congratulations on your win. Clearly, it was deservingly so, and I'm equally confident you had some tough competition out there, so it must have been a very difficult choice. But all the same, congratulations, and thank you for joining us on MTVS.
Thanks a lot for having me, Neil.
So this is Neil Schneider for MTVS-TV, and we will, of course, be back with more. Thank you for watching.